everyone, and welcome to the Hash, your daily beat on crypto and culture, and happy Thursday. Hope you're enjoying the day. My name is Naomi Brockwell, and we have Will Foxley, Jen Sanasie, Adam Levine, and Zack, Seward. Welcome to the show, guys. And we're going to kick off by going full circle. I'm going to hand it straight off to Zack. See what I did there?
Nice. Circle is going public. The firm most closely associated with the USDC stablecoin is going public in a SPAC deal that values the firm at $4.5 billion, and that's a big deal. Let's toss it to Adam for his initial take, actually. I think this is quite notable. You know, obviously we saw Coinbase go public with its direct listing. Here we have a major stablecoin issuer going public through a SPAC deal. In a deal that's quite interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to tackle this one. I'm sure we'll get to them all. But Adam, start us off on why this matters.
So I think this one matters because it's a continuation of this narrative that we've started to see, which is that crypto companies making good, going public, and really kind of infiltrating the traditional world. It's kind of interesting that that Circle is making this push, and specifically, it's interesting because the USDC stablecoin, right, has always been sort of perceived as like the friendlier, less likely to collapse under its own weight version of the USDT Tether stablecoin, which dominates our industry. Now, Circle itself is not the only part of that play, but I think that, again, it's interesting to see them going public, and it's also interesting to see them using a SPAC as a vehicle to do it, because, again, it prevents them from having to go through a lot of the diligence that a company like Coinbase really had to go through in order to make it. I think the final angle that's interesting to me here is that, again, like, as when Coinbase did it, this was a really, really novel thing. When Circle's doing it now, this is also going to be novel. But get another 2 or 3, IPOs or public listings into this cycle, and it's not going to be interesting anymore. It's going to be just kind of like the start of a flood. We really don't know where that's going to end. I'm curious what companies we see take this move besides these big obvious exchanges. But I think that this is a first step.
Zack, wasn't there? Go for it, Will.
No, you can ask your question, though. I'll ask one as well.
Well, I just, Zack, wasn't there a lot of regulatory concern around SPACs recently?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't dig into that angle. I think there was I don't know. They've definitely become a far more popular vehicle for public listing. So I think there was a little bit of trepidation on part of regulators to make sure everything was above board. But I missed the SPAC deep dive. Was that Naomi? Did you have some goods there? You got a little insight on that one?
Yeah, but Will, you hop in first, and then I'll jump in.
I just wanted to take a. Sorry?
We're so polite. No, you go first. No, you.
It's live.
Yeah, we got to be meaner. You got to be more mean.
Hit me.
I'm
Let's go, Will.
Taking
I'm ready.
A walk down memory lane and thinking about Circle. And I think 2 years ago, people were wondering what this company is going to be or it was 2 or 3 years ago. Someone can correct me there on that. But at one point they had Poloniex, and then that exchange was kind of floundering, and then they offloaded it to Just and Soon. And now they later came out with the USDC stablecoin and partnered with Coinbase on it. And people are like, oh, how are you going to make money on a stablecoin? That's ridiculous. And now we're here and they're going public. So again, another testament to the mega chads and the big brains out there who understand these things far better than us plebs do. Zack, your take.
Shout out to the giga chads. Yeah, it is interesting to see Circle sort of find its footing with this iteration of itself, right? It started out as a payments app, right? Wanted to be sort of a consumer-facing thing, really pivoted away from that. Definitely the Poloniex deal is one of the funnier things in crypto history in my book. So they paid $400 million for this thing. It had some iffy on the regulation stuff, had some problems. They spun it out. They sold it. We just reported, actually, based on the SPAC documents, that they lost $156 million on that deal, as revealed in today's filing materials. So, for them to sort of ride it out, go through the storm, and then find this whole stablecoin thing at the moment in which stablecoins are really taking off, and ride the stablecoin hard to go to a public listing is quite remarkable in terms of sort of in the annals of crypto company history. But yeah, Adam, I mean, you have that perspective as well, I'm sure. And I would love your remarks on sort of that bigger picture sweep.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about stablecoins a little bit more, USDC, in a second. But I mean, again, like thinking back to the long ago when Poloniex was actually a thing that people cared about, crypto has seen several types of exchanges throughout its history. There have been exchanges that are sort of boring, a little bit more conservative, and which tend to last the kind of test of time. And then you kind of have the Binances of today. And the Binances of today, when you're looking at them, if you look back through history, Poloniex played that same role, which is they list lots of tokens, they present lots of opportunity. Typically, they have leverage associated with them. So Circle bought Poloniex coming out of one of those cycles when Poloniex had been a big player but was on its way out. So they were making a bet that they could revive that and convert it, or at least take the customers. That may have just been the play there as well. In practice, that isn't what happened. And it was a rather ignoble kind of escape from that towards the end of the cycle. But that's kind of the context of where that whole thing came from. Honestly, I think that the stablecoin side of it is really pretty fascinating because, again, these stablecoins have such a role to play within cryptocurrencies. They're not just used for traders arbitraging between one exchange and another. They're also used by people who really actually need some form of stable value, which cryptocurrency can provide the rails for, but not the price stability for. So if you're looking for something that's analogous to holding US dollars and you're living in Argentina, you can choose Bitcoin, but that's choosing effectively something else that has risk associated with it. Whereas if you're choosing something that's pegged to a dollar, then that actually presents some kind of stability. But let's turn real quickly to our next subject, which is talking about USDC, right? So on the subject of USDC, Coinbase recently rolled out what is effectively their version of an interest-bearing savings account for the consortium-backed US dollar-pegged stablecoin, with the now public exchange paying about 4% interest per year, actually just 4% interest per year on holdings of USDC kept within the Coinbase exchange itself. They're straddling an interesting line between keeping money in the bank, which is supposedly very low risk, but pays effectively nothing, not even taking annual inflation into account, and more exciting DeFi savings plays that typically involve other tokens and can pay up to 12%, but which have smart contract risk and a number of other types of risk. I'm actually quite curious. This is something I've been thinking about. How do you store dollars? What is the best way to store dollars? Is it still the bank account, or is it something like this? And do we trust Coinbase as much as we trust banks at this point? For me, that's a question that I really am still kind of trying to figure out. Naomi, let's go to you first for this one. What do you think about this? Is this a compelling rate, or is the risk still too great?
Well, I think that if people are trusting crypto exchanges as much as banks, it's more of an emotional response rather than a rational one, because crypto deposits aren't insured. So yes, Coinbase seems like a remarkably sturdy institution. It's been around for a really long time. It has a great team. It has a great reputation. And so I personally think it's just as trustworthy as a bank. But we do have to keep in mind that if you're putting in US dollars, yes, they're FDIC insured up to a certain amount. If you're putting in crypto, it's not FDIC insured. FDIC does not go anywhere near crypto. They do not like crypto. They deem it a high-risk industry. And so your crypto is always going to be at risk when you put it in an institution that is custodying those assets for you. That's important for people to keep in mind. That being said, honestly, I think people highly overestimate the amount of faith they should have in banks. So for me, yes, I think that, Coinbase is probably the same as banks. I mean, you have banks that are rehypothecating loans all the time. You have basically IOUs that say redeemable for instantly. That's a big difference from taking out credit, right? When you put in a term deposit, you have a contract that says you can take it out after a certain amount of time. Sure, then you can lend up that amount, and there's no worry because the person isn't going to come claim something before that date. But if you're saying that this IOU is instantly redeemable at a bank and the bank doesn't have the funds to cover it, that's a huge risk. And that's why a lot of people in crypto got into crypto, because they just don't trust the banking system. They think it's kind of a house of cards. And so there are a lot of questions about this system. I think that 4% is a really interesting number because it is quite conservative when you compare it to the craziness of DeFi, where you just have astronomical interest rates. But at the same time, Coinbase has a lot of assets that they could cover losses with. They have, big reserves, and their fiat side, as I said, is FDIC insured. So there are lots of things that they could do to make up for any losses if there are hacks or anything. They also, have a famously good like a security system that they transferred, was it like 2 years ago? They had this mass migration of funds into this big new cold storage system. So, it does seem like you're getting the interest that sort of matches the market rate according to how much risk you're taking on. And it's a hell of a lot better than you're going to get at a bank account. Personally, I don't know whether you should be keeping much money in fiat as your savings. I don't see it going anywhere but down. So maybe if you're going to choose a crypto, you don't want to choose one that's pegged to something that's only going to go down. But if you are making up for that by getting 4%, maybe if you're risk averse, that might be a good hedge. Or if you're open to a little more risk, maybe you might want to just start putting your money in different cryptocurrencies that you think are going to be the foundation for our decentralized future.
Thanks for that, Naomi. Let's hear from Jen quickly on this one, and then I think we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, Adam, just to your question there, I think that we've been programmed to trust banks, right? Crypto has been around for just over 10 years. We're still learning about it when we look at the general public. So I think when we look at the mass audience, it's going to take a little while to instill that trust in them, but I think that trust is deteriorating quite quickly based on the points that Naomi you just outlined. We have to go. I was going to ask you to talk us through some of those risks, but I'm sure we'll have an opportunity on another show. Let's talk about what's coming up.
Not a topic that's going away.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk about Taiwan. Is Taiwan going to be the next hot crypto capital? I don't know. What do you guys think? We'll talk about it after the break. All right. Cool. Thanks.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at Purpose chose the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back to The Hash, everyone. We're going to go to Taiwan and see what's happening there in the crypto scene. A lot of people are wondering whether all the crackdowns that have been happening in China will lead to people moving out of China and going across to Taiwan, and whether this will become the new crypto haven of Asia, at least. And it's an interesting question. We have seen a lot of people relocating to Taiwan. It kind of became this haven during COVID because the response there was so great, and it really was just this booming economy that never really shut down and never really had this this big spike in cases there. On the other side of things, you have a lot of different firms out of China that are moving there. I actually know a few friends who have moved to Taiwan in the crypto space. It does seem to be interesting, and it's counterintuitive because Taiwan actually doesn't have the best crypto laws. July 1st, they introduced this new anti-money laundering regulation. They have all of these really bureaucratic and kind of draconian laws that exchanges have to abide by. Because of that, a lot of exchanges have actually, shut down, moved out of Taiwan for that reason. So it's not really the best regulatory environment for Taiwan. But there's this interesting thing that's happening in the world where we're becoming more decentralized. You have companies that are becoming jurisdictionless. And it seems that Taiwan has this interesting characteristic that if you're just based there, but you're not actually, aiming your product towards the locals in Taiwan, if it's more just sort of a global outlook, then you don't really have to abide by the same regulations. They don't really care as much about you. It's the questions start being asked when you start targeting the local population there. So it's just kind of this interesting situation about whether or not kind of jurisdictionless companies will start moving there for other reasons. And maybe they might end up getting these crypto laws changed. I don't know, but it's a super interesting question. Adam, I'm going to throw to you. No, I'm not. I'm going to throw to Will because I saw your hand. Go for it, Will.
Stolen. Yeah, I just have a question for the group, and maybe no one knows this, but wondering like what the process is for moving from China to Taiwan. I just have a feeling that the CCP would not be favorable for businesses moving to Taiwan. So like the logistical hurdles there are interesting to me. Of course, I don't know if anyone's an expert on intercountry laws in that area. If you are, that'd be kind of clutch
I am
right
not,
now.
but I would presume it's very difficult to get out of China and to get capital itself out of China. They do not make it easy.
Control says it's a tough thing to do. So we're going to go with that.
Control, saving the day again.
One other note is that Taiwan already has a lot of technological based companies there, right? So they make a lot of the wafers that Apple and all these modern cars use. And they are able to do that because they have the processes and manufacturing set up to do that. And it's like pretty high end tech stuff. That's why they dominate that space. So crypto kind of makes sense to go there because they already have a lot of tech there. But give it to you, Zach.
I'm going to let you finish Taiwan, but Singapore. Why are we not talking about Singapore? That's where all these jurisdictionless guys are anyway. Come on, man. Singapore,
don't
sleep on Singapore like that.
And they'll move together.
It's rude.
One
Taipei
thing at
looking
a time,
real
Zach.
nice in those photos. I love the tower. I love the colonial buildings. Those are hot. Singapore, though? Bro, are these people really sleeping on Singapore in this article? Because that's my only question. There's so much momentum around Singapore right now that I think Asia's crypto capital, you have to say Singapore is toward the top of that list. Singapore, Hong Kong, then maybe Taiwan. I don't know.
Hong Kong?
But that's
Hong
that's
Kong.
all I
Oh
gotta
my
say.
God, Zach, no.
That's all I gotta
Hong Kong
say.
is dead since they instituted the
It's
national
Hong Kong's
security
dead.
law. There is no free
Not
speech.
going well there.
There is no free economic zone anymore.
All
It's
right,
like
well, I
it's
stick
We
with
gotta get a
Singapore.
reporter over there.
I stick
Zach,
with
you
Singapore.
gotta go
I
report
stick with
front line.
Singapore. All right, I'm going over there. I'm gonna hop on the plane.
Adam,
we're gonna
going
make it
to
happen.
you.
Adam, do.
Yeah, so I think that there's two stories here. One is that people are looking for the least worst option to service these markets, right? And so it's not really a question of who's doing the best job. It's a question of who is putting the least roadblocks in the way. And this is actually pretty typical of these types of things in these countries that have very mixed feelings about cryptocurrencies, right? There are countries out there for whom cryptocurrencies are really just a net positive. And they're not necessarily to the point where they're trusted yet to kind of take on that role within their economies. But there's no argument against them, really, because they're already at the mercy of somebody else's currency as the thing that they have to use, right? So you look at a country like China, and they would very much like their internal currency to become a currency that rivals the US dollar. They're not the only one out there, but it certainly is one of the strongest players given the size of their economy and the way that they're set up. So I think that, again, and then that's the other side, is that China is in large part a command economy. It's a single party political state, effectively. And so that, on the one hand, means that they can do things really fast, right? Like, what's the most efficient form of government you can have? A dictatorship. All you have to do is have one person make a decision, but these tend to be very brittle types of systems, right? Where, because it's so reliant on a small group of people, well, that means that if they're wrong, then they're wrong for everybody, as opposed to the decision making being spread out amongst people who really understand what it is that they need. So on the one hand, China needs to retain that control, because that's the only way that you can really keep a one-party political state. On the other hand, they want to be players in the world, and so they need to offer these sorts of lower regulated areas in order to do that. Now, recently, we've seen many of those lower regulated areas, lighter regulated areas, kind of get clamped down on, because the downside of freedom is that they can do things that the central political party does not like. But that's kind of the tension I think that we're seeing here. And so, again, it always comes back to me. It's not about what's the best option. It's about what's the least worst option. And we'll see people gravitate to that. Naomi?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's also interesting that things are really heating up in Taiwan in relationship to China. You have Japan announcing that they've started fortifying the waters around Taiwan, basically sending a message to China saying, if you invade, we will, back up Taiwan. So things are getting pretty dire there in the geopolitical sense. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what the future holds there, but hope the Chinese people continue to do awesome technological things. But I'm going to throw this to you, Jen. I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, just based on what you said when we kicked off, I think it's not impossible, but very hard to operate a business in a jurisdiction and not inevitably get customers there. You start to build a network. You start to understand the culture. Your employees really start to get embedded in the culture, and you inevitably, I believe, we'll start to get customers in a jurisdiction. What was interesting to me about the story, though, was that Taiwan had issued these gold visas to get tech entrepreneurs to move there and set up shop. And then when it came to regulation around the tech that was being built there, they were like, whoa, 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 we want you to innovate, but maybe don't innovate that much. And so for me, it just comes back down to regulators being like, yeah, let's do this fun thing, but not too much fun, because we don't really get it. So interested to see what happens there next.
Right.
Awesome. Well, let's turn away from drama out east and back to the States, where we got Trump suing Facebook, Twitter, and Google in a class action lawsuit. He filed this in the Southern District of Florida, and he's going back for his accounts. He wants them back. He wants to be able to tweet to the people. I have a feeling it won't work. Of course, Trump was banned from Twitter in January, and then also was given a further 2-year ban on Facebook in the same month. And then he has like a lot of restrictions on YouTube. I don't know if it's a full out ban. Maybe someone on the show does. But yeah, interesting to see there's like such a prominent figure over the last 4 years still trying to get his name back into the public sphere. I just like personally haven't seen, like, don't see his message ever now. And of course, over the last 4 or 5 years, his message was everywhere. So just like those super highways of communication are closed off to him. And now it's like the message is a lot more mundane, or you just like don't see it as much as before, which to pull it into the crypto sphere with Web3 and those kind of products that people are trying to launch, including social media apps like Twitch, you wouldn't be able to take down people's accounts. They would just live on forever as uncensorable domains that kind of link to one another through like applications on top of blockchains. So that's kind of the crypto angle here. But I'm going to toss this down to Zack. What do you think about this? Is he going to win these lawsuits?
I was just thinking about how nice it is that you don't have to hear Trump all the time anymore. It's been like real nice. So it's pro censorship. Let's shut it down. This freedom of speech stuff, cut it out. No, that's just like top line. Just wow. Remember when he like took up all the oxygen in the room every day on the internet, like every single day?
Now it's Elon Musk.
That was
It was
crazy.
entertaining, Zack. It
That
was
entertaining. Crazy.
It was
so
also
crazy.
Inciting. Yeah,
it was
why
indeed.
Should he get him back? I know Naomi wants to talk, so I'm just going to set
Naomi
you up.
wants
Why
in.
should he get
All
him
right.
back?
Yeah, go for it. Go, Naomi, go.
You shouldn't. I mean, a private platform has the right to kick off whoever they want. They keep talking about these biased policies. Who cares? It's the right of the platform to determine whether or not they want biased policies or not. Like, I think that, like, my question is, who cares? For 2 reasons, right? Number one, why would we want to force social media platforms to keep political figures on there? That is a dangerous, slippery slope that we don't want to go down. And I don't want to hear more from politicians. It just sounds awful. Like, let the platforms do what they want. Number two, if Trump really thought that these were bad platforms that were biased, all he needed to do was say, I'm going to X platform, or I'm starting my own platform, and it would have gone gangbusters. It would have had 50% of the American population on there, championing him, and it would have become a rival for these platforms. But instead, he's putting these platforms up on a pedestal, further entrenching their position by trying to change the laws around it, trying to sue them, trying to get back at them so that he can get back on their platform. By getting back on their platform, he is giving their platform, more clicks and more views for all of the things that he says on those platforms. So I don't know why he wants to prop up these platforms that he thinks are incredibly biased when he can just go and do his own thing. It's just the stupidest thing. Let the free market work. Let alternatives pop up. And I'm going to throw this to you,
Let me play
Adam.
devil's advocate here.
All right,
I'll give it to Adam first.
Will, go in. Will, go in, son.
I'm taking this. I got a lot to say here. Okay. So there's 2 things. One, it's not about whether or not and who gets banned. It's about consistency in the application of rules. And that is something that has very much been missing from all of these political conversations that have been happening on social media. There is very selective censorship. There is very selective enforcement of the rules based upon political ideology. I have no problem what platforms, private platforms, create in terms of their rules. I do believe that they need to stick to them, or they can't be protected in the way that they are right now. Secondly, I've now pulled up, based on this conversation, the actual statement that that was like Twitter's argument for why they banned him. And I'm going to read it now, part of it. On January 8th, 2021, President Donald J. Trump tweeted, "The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form," end quote. Shortly thereafter, the president tweeted, quote, "To all of those who asked, I will not be going to the inauguration of January 20th, end quote. This is now Twitter talking. "Due to the ongoing tensions in the United States and an uptick in the global conversation in regards to people who violently stormed the Capitol on January 6th, these two tweets must be read in the context of broader events in the country and the way in which the president's statement can be mobilized by different audiences." I'm going to stop quoting there. That is as dystopian as you can possibly get. That is saying that it doesn't matter what you said. It matters how some arbitrary people might choose to interpret it outside of your actual words. And if that's the standards that we're using now, regardless of whether it's a private platform or not, then there is no such thing as free speech anymore. It's just a question of who has power and how much can you exercise that power to emphasize your viewpoint. Back to you.
Adam, I got to jump in. In because you're saying that this is dystopian. What would be more dystopian than then having the government as the arbiter of truth? The government saying, this is a consistent application. This would be the way to apply it consistently. The platform can choose. Like the platform thinks it's being consistent. The platform say these are the rules. This is how we interpret them. The only other alternative is the government top down coming in and saying this is how you should interpret them, which gets into a whole scarier, worse mess.
So I don't disagree with you on that, but again, the government is already in this picture because the government protects these platforms from lawsuits and from legal action based on their status as a neutral platform that just enforces the rules and provides rails. Again, when you make a phone call, the telephone company isn't
never comes
listening
into play. There is no requirement for these platforms to be neutral, and people keep throwing that word in as if this is something that a publisher or anyone has to do.
Then Section
it doesn't have to be neutral.
Will's
no, that's ridiculous. Neutrality has nothing to do with Section 230. Nothing to do with Section 230.
Will.
No, we got to go to the next topic. All I'm saying is I only have 3,500 followers, and it would have been cool if they distributed Trump's following account to everybody. That would have been kind of cool, a good way to appease everyone. Jen, let's hear it from you.
Good job, Will.
Okay, moving on to Spike Lee. All right, so he's directed and starred in a television commercial for CoinCloud. That was shot last month. The commercial's not currently online, but the New York Times has reported on it. It features Spike Lee in a straw hat holding a gold-tipped cane for part of the commercial. And in another part, he says, "Old money is not going to pick us up. It pushes us down." The article references a little bit of FOMO from Spike, saying before he hopped on the crypto bandwagon, he turned down Crocs. And in an interview, he said, "I wish I would have given some money back then." So I have a lot of thoughts on this, but
Crocs?
I want to kick it off to the panel.
Like the shoe company?
Crocs, the shoe company.
Yeah,
he
like
missed out on an investment in Crocs.
That is a miss. It's a huge miss.
And now he doesn't want to miss out on the next big thing. So he's getting into crypto.
Man, I just got to say, I love a good New York Times crypto headline. They are so funny. They're so off base in terms of tone. I've never heard this company. I don't know what they're talking about. What is CoinCloud? I don't know.
It's
okay.
It's a Bitcoin ATM company.
Got it. So wait. So they're going to
support
they're going to put the spotlight on this crypto thing. Oh, okay. Cool. So that's what's happening here, according to this headline, right? That they're going to be the people who bring this to the masses, right? CoinCloud. Cool.
Well, yeah. Buying it from them for I don't know what ATMs charge in the crypto world these days, but it ain't cheap. Buying it from them. That's the way that we're going to solve this problem. Indeed.
Good.
Cool. So I just had to rag on the gray lady for a minute, but yeah, I mean, I'm all here for the financial empowerment message, but. New York Times crypto coverage.
And the Spike's in front of the crowd, leading it on. I'm right there with him.
Knicks only. Knicks fans only. Let's go.
Yeah. Anyway.
CoinCloud's chief marketing officer said that they hope that this commercial would bring crypto to the masses. And then in an interview, Spike said, before shooting the commercial, he had not known a lot about crypto. He had to take a crash course in it, but he's super interested in it now. And so for me, it's like, I'm all for celebrities getting involved, but celebrities who actually care about the crypto space. I know they're out there. We have Nas. We have Paris Hilton. I know we've ragged on her on the show before, but she's more involved in the crypto space than Spike Lee. I just feel like there's so much more.
We apologize from right here,
right there. Let's go.
There's so many other people who could have.
I mean, I'll do it. I'll do a takeaway. I mean, yeah, so it's been a bull market. It's been good times for crypto companies. And I think it's really interesting to see all these sponsorships, marketing things being plowed into sort of mainstream figureheads that like represent various communities that these big crypto brands are trying to activate, right? I don't know, maybe you're a baseball fan. Okay, FTX is putting its logo on the umpires. Cool. Maybe you really like Spike Lee movies. Okay, here's CoinCloud coming at you, right? So, all these returns are sort of being plowed into various marketing spends, and it is a little silly, but it is always fun to see how it unfolds and to see how these companies think that they can activate some subset of the mainstream with these partnerships and these tie-ups. So I don't know. I think that's the big picture that does remain interesting to me here at the tail end of this. Or, well, I don't even know where we are in this cycle, but here at this point in the cycle, it's interesting to see. Naomi, yours.
I will just rag on the New York Times again. Did they put out this article prematurely? Because isn't it weird for them to be talking in detail about this commercial that hasn't even been released? Wouldn't it make more sense for them to do something that's timed for the release so that people it just seems super weird to me. It's such an article about nothing, because it's like an article about an advertisement about, I don't know. It just feels really, really hypey.
We should say that I don't know if this commercial has aired broadcast only in some jurisdiction that none of us are in. Let's just put that out there. Maybe the commercial is just very obscure, but it's definitely not online. None of us could find it, so I don't know. Maybe the New York Times.
But wasn't there the eToro commercial with
the Alec Baldwin one?
That's the only other one, right? Or is there other ones that we're forgetting?
You remember Figure? They had that whole Blocky series of commercials with the puppet.
Yes.
I really like that. Yep. That was some of my favorite mainstream crypto commercials so far.
Puppet.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris
Blocky.
was involved.
That's what I'm saying.
Neil Patrick Harris was involved in some?
I haven't seen Neil Patrick Harris.
There was, hold on, I have it.
He was
here.
A PayPal person, but I don't think he did crypto PayPal stuff.
We're just talking about celebrities.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. We just really got to wrap it up with just as much name dropping as we can do.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. Paris Hilton, Will loves you. Get on the show. All right, cool. That was the Hash for Thursday. It's Friday Light here at the Hash, so we had a good time. We'll be back again for Friday proper. I'm Zach. We got Will. We got Jen. We got Adam. We got Naomi, the whole squad, and it's been good. So, yeah, stick with us. CoinDesk.com. A lot of good stuff going out today. All sorts of stories hitting the old news wire. Crazy times. Also, you can watch All About Bitcoin, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's a good thing to do. And until we see you again, have a great day, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.